There you go.
Okay, we should be good.
Okay. I guess I'll open the floor to anybody has any discussion that they want on the on finance.
This is just the annual policy review. There's 3 policies in the charter that were sent out for review. Same ones as last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Jeff. I didn't see anything other than maybe reviewing with the the whole group, just our procurement, procedures, which I think we're all pretty familiar with, and we all know to uphold or what have you. But that was really, in going through, that was the only thing. It was good to review that and have that in the back of our mind if we do go out to do any bids or what we want to do. So that was my only thoughts and comments. Everything else was pretty benign and from what we've looked at in the past.
It's a good idea, though, to review the kind of those limits and processes at least. Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, just something 1-2 minutes just to say, hey, we reviewed it, and just a high level reminder, we do go back and conform to those anytime, if we're looking to go do any kind of procurement or bid process.
Well, there is on the agenda a report from the Finance Committee tonight, so that would be a great time to do that.
Yes, exactly. I concur.
Yeah. You can do that too, Jeff.
Okay.
See what I'm getting at there.
Yeah. I hear you.
Don't feel like you're set up now.
Tracy, since this is my first time taking part in this, what I'm understanding is that this procurement policy is governed by New York state law. Is that
Correct?
Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so most of these policies, a lot of them are built off of templates that the state provided with just like some of our specific information put in, but those templates are pretty much based within the legislation. So there's not a ton of room in these policies to make changes. On the procurement policy, one change we did make was that under section 7, where it has circumstances justifying an award to other than the lowest cost quoted, we added a few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago now, we added local procurement as an option for that, so that the board could have the flexibility to choose a local, like assuming that it was still a relatively close, and reasonable bid, that would give us the opportunity to choose a local company over a non-local company that bid just under them.
Okay.
Everything else
That
is
makes
pretty
sense.
much with the state.
And then there's no set threshold of what that difference is. It's up to the board, basically.
Correct.
Okay.
I think that the board, I think there was one instance that I remember where there was a local that was a little bit higher, but we didn't know as much about the lower bid one as we did about the local company. And I think, just common sense comes into play when we discuss that, Jim.
Sure.
Yeah. And one thing to note is that procuring services is a little bit different than, the commodities, equipment, and goods. There's a lot more flexibility in selecting services, just like the city has.
Yes.
Whereas the goods and services, or the goods and kind of like the hard goods, it's a little more stringent in terms of, you go with the low cost.
Oh, I know. I know.
You know.
And there's always that negative pushback because people just don't understand that you have to take the lowest responsible bidder. And to prove that somebody's not a responsible bidder is a very difficult thing. And for the most part, in my time on council, we haven't really had any issues with contractors. I think there was a little bit of an issue with the general contractor for the Welcome Center that thankfully was able to get straightened out. But yeah, it's tough.
Well, I think, if there's a huge disparity that, you really have to question it very strongly, but normally you don't see that large of disparity in the bids.
Sure. Yeah, that was the only question I had on it.
Okay, we're going to take this to the board for approval.
So tonight we'll report back, and then we'll do it with all the other policies at the end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll just report to the board that we have reviewed it and recommend it.
Yep.
Very good. Well, obviously we have some extra time here. We have an opening on the board as of now. Ron Lavarnway stepping down. He has said he would stay there, but he wishes that we expedite his replacement. What I'm looking for is anybody has any recommendations that they'd like to bring up that they think would be good on the board. I certainly would be glad to take a look at them before the recommendation sent to the mayor.
You might recall in your nominations yourselves that the two requirements are that they're City of Auburn residents, right, Jim? They must be a resident. And then the mayor does like them to be a registered voter just as a proxy for citizenship. There was an issue many years back. It was more of a PR issue than anything else, but that's the proxy that he uses to avoid those kinds of issues.
We if there's a very obvious conflict of interest, we certainly, have to worry about that. We can't really take a look at potential for conflict of interest, because we don't know what's going to happen down the road. That could happen to just about anybody on the board. So if there is a conflict of interest, that's certainly something that would be of interest that we'd want to look into before we would consider that individual. And I'll be bringing this up to the entire board. So I just thought I'd run it by you since we had some time.
I'm hoping that among the recommendations that come forward, that hopefully it'll be a female, since there's only one female on the board, on the entire board right now. So hopefully that can happen.
That's a good point. Yep, definitely. It did my heart good to see the vice president take the oath of office. It finally set in that our vice president is a woman, a female, and I think that just says how far we've come. It's amazing. I'm very happy about that, because somebody said it today on as they were talking, one of the commentators, about 100 years ago, it was totally men and women would never even be considered for any of these offices, even local offices. So I think it's amazing. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I agree.
Now this is a at-large position, isn't it, Tracy?
Yes.
I believe, yeah.
Yes.
So that gives us, a lot more leeway as to who we choose too.
Is there any way to post the opening, so to speak, or make folks kind of aware of it, or is it, or maybe we have some candidates we don't need to do that? But I was curious if there's any kind of process around that.
I think it's really you if you post it and you've opened it up like that, it makes it very difficult to pick the person that you think would be the best for the job, because there may be political ramifications. There's a lot of reasons why. We've never done that. Posted
I just wasn't sure if there's any kind of policy around that either. So I guess there is, but
basically, well, there is. The policy is that in conjunction with the board, we come up with names. Hopefully, we can offer 2 or 3 names that we think are really good, and then we give them to the mayor, and he makes the final decision. A lot of times, the board pretty much has settled on one individual that they would like to have fill that position, and that what we do then is just make that recommendation to the mayor, and then he brings it to the council. So the procedure is, if we make a recommendation, the mayor makes a decision in conjunction with the council, and the council approves it. Which makes it very difficult because there's some great people that work for the city that you really can't consider because of conflict of interest.
gotcha.
But there's, I think one of the things that I was going to talk to Tracy about was to get a list of the recent, maybe the last 2 graduating classes of Leadership Cayuga, and take a look at that and see what kind of names and backgrounds that people have. The whole idea of Leadership Cayuga is to get people involved in the community and to work in the community and become leaders. And here's a good chance and opportunity for one of them to do that, to get involved. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the people in Leadership Cayuga, after they graduate of late, really get involved in anything after they graduate. So it'd be nice to provide them with a chance to do that.
I would respectfully disagree. I think some of our recent graduates have gotten very involved, and it just might not be an AIDA.
Percentage-wise, yeah, some have. Percentage-wise, and then there's, wait a minute, the quality of the person we're talking, you gotta look at the quality too, Tracy.
What are you saying about recent Leadership Cayuga grads?
When did you graduate?
Watch it.
No, I think that that has fallen down, not necessarily because of the people that have gone to the classes. It's that the organizations aren't taking advantage of looking at the people that graduated to get them involved, letting them know that there are positions that they could get involved in.
Well, I will ask Jessica if there's anyone from recent classes that might be a good fit and see what she says and let you know.
Sure. I think that's a good place to draw from. Are they having a class this year?
They are.
They are.
Yep.
How are they doing it, virtually or?
It's been a mix. They started out in person, but distanced and masked, and the last couple of classes have been virtual. They're hoping to go back to in person soon, but kind of playing it by ear, seeing how things go. But it's a smaller class. There's not quite as many people in it this year as we would normally have.
Yeah, well, that probably goes along with the employment too. Trying to
But
get
this class is
companies
doing
to
things.
people.
Let me tell you.
Pardon me?
This class is a
I
bunch
didn't.
of go-getters. They're doing things in the world. So they're not even waiting to graduate. They're just like jumping right in.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Do you want to adjourn this committee?
Yeah. Why don't we? The motion. Go ahead, Jeff. I'll second it. Jimmy. What happened to Jimmy?
He's back.
Oh, there he is.
I'm here.
And you just seconded it, right? We're going to adjourn.
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions carried. Thank you.
Yep. Good to go.
Are we recording?
Yes.
Okay. The meeting of the Auburn Industrial Development Authority will come to order. A roll call, please.
Mr. Gacy,
Here.
Mr. Andre,
Here.
Mr. Beer,
Here.
Mr. Cuddy,
Here.
Mr. Gasper, Mr. Graves. No. Mr. LeBarnway. No. Mr. Gianatino.
Here.
And Ms. Glover McLeod. Here.
Okay. The minutes for the December 16th meeting. I'm assuming that we've all had a chance to review them. Are there any changes or additions to the minutes? If not, is there a motion?
This is Jimmy. I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion says. Thank you. We'll go right now to the initial project resolution for Max Studios expansion. The resolution of the Auburn Industrial Development Authority accepting the application of Peter Mack Realty Limited with respect to a certain project as more fully described below, authorizing a public hearing with respect to the project and describing the forms of financial assistance being contemplated by the authority. Floor is open for discussion. Peter, do you want, would you like to say something first?
No, I thank you all for listening to our needs. We've been in business for over 55 years now in Auburn. We started in the basement of my dad. So, I mean, this is a good testimony to my father starting a business here in Auburn. It's homegrown, and we keep growing and we keep adding more people. We're keep adding local talent and keep adding to the tax base in the town. I guess I'm not going to stop doing it. I guess I'm destined to work forever. So any help would definitely be appreciated, as usual.
Could you just briefly explain to us what your game plan is?
Well, right now I need to add another 25,000 square feet regardless. I'm renting another 25,000 square feet somewhere else, and they're not very desirable conditions. We do quite a bit of work now with import, and we've become a functioning warehouse. We have quite a few people working there. We're shipping and receiving, 10 trucks a day now. It's quite a bit. We collate a lot. We're working with this fourth largest phone carrier in the country right now. We're also we've set ourselves up to handle larger rollouts, and because of that, and the business development people that I've hired, I've named someone else the president of my company. These people are very young and they're very aggressive. They're bringing the work in. We did want to build another 50,000 square feet. This has been a tough year for everybody. I've always played it conservatively. So we'll build this 25,000. This will satisfy us for at least another year or two. And then we want to talk to you about developing the rest of the property to the east of us. So, good things to come.
Very good. Any questions for Peter?
Yeah, can I ask Peter? Peter, my name is Bill Andre. I'm the member of labor. I take it that you and your company and your lawyers have looked at the local labor agreement?
We always do.
You don't think you're going to have any problems living up to that agreement?
What am I missing here?
I'm talking about the local labor agreement when you're constructing your new site, your new building.
Right. What is that labor agreement?
So
Okay, well,
that's the agreement that we spoke about back in, I don't remember when we were there, but it was, I
Right.
believe, 65%.
Using local labor?
Yep, 65% Cuga County labor.
Well, we're using everything I've exhausted. We're using, yeah, I mean, money wise it is because the concrete and the site development are the two companies, Murphy Brothers and Vitale. They're in for $650,000 of the project. The electrician is local. The only people that we really hired outside of the county are people that don't do the work. There's nobody that sells that building or erects it. So we've gone to a Rochester-based company for that. And for the sprinkler, the fire suppression. Everything else is all local.
thank you, Peter. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
If my recollection is correct, and the original building that we're talking about, him adding on the 25,000 square feet, they stayed within the labor agreement quite well.
Right. That's when J.K. Hogan was in town. He was the general contractor. So he did buy the building out of town and he did buy the labor out of town to erect that, but he did the same thing I'm doing, pretty much following his protocol. He's not in business anymore.
Yep.
So I'm the general contractor. I needed something to do.
You're the gentleman.
I've done this 6 times. I get it. What?
Any other questions? Okay. So the resolution is to put this to a public hearing. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved, Roger Beer.
I'll second it.
Terry, seconds. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Dacey,
Aye.
Mr. Andre,
Aye.
Mr. Beer,
Aye.
Mr. Cuddy,
Yes.
Mr. Gasper,
Aye.
Mr. Giannatino,
Aye.
Ms. Wilbur McLeod,
Aye.
Mr. Grievous is absent. Mr. Loparnway is absent.
Okay, we will now have to set up a date. It has to go in the paper. And would we hold that at City Hall, Tracy?
Tracy, we can't hear you.
You're cutting out.
Oh, I pressed the wrong button. What we'll likely do is hold it virtually and then have our conference room available should, for some reason, someone want to attend in person.
Okay. Very good.
Are you going to do it right before
Then we can
meeting?
Pardon me?
Are you going to do it right before the regular meeting, like 4:30 of the next meeting date?
Well, we have to post it in the paper, and it's what, 7 days, Tracy?
But need 10-day notice, but
It's 10. We've been doing them concurrently with the next monthly meeting, unless somebody thinks got to do it quicker. And then you could, assuming that you want to pass it, then we pass the pilot resolution, the authorizing resolution, and seeker all at the meeting following. So that would all be in February.
Does that work for you, Peter?
Yes.
That sounds like a good idea.
Okay. Why don't we set that up, Tracy?
Sure thing.
If you have nothing more for Peter, thank you for coming, showing up, and we'll get back to you on the date and time of the public meeting.
That's great. And thank you all for your support. I appreciate it. So do the good people at Mac Studios.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
have a good day.
Bye.
You're more than welcome to stay for the meeting if you'd like.
I think I'll pass.
No, Peter.
Oh,
Okay, bills and communications.
in the packet, you will see we have the Q4 invoice for CETA, which came to the amount of $23,524.87, which includes your administrative service contract, the operating expenses, and your fee share. Then we have your EDC renewal membership for $850. And then we have the Aurelius County and tax bills, which came to the amount of $1.59.
I just don't get that.
Can I ask about this? Excuse me, Jim. Can I ask about the fee share, the 18,386? It doesn't appear to have been budgeted. What is that?
So that's the part of the CETA administrative contract that allows for a fee share when there is, what it does is it looks at income versus operating expenses, and whatever net revenue from project income there's a percentage share, a 20% share that goes to CETA at the end of the year.
Oh, surprise.
Happens every
Surprise
year.
at the
Well,
end.
it's a very fair way of funding.
I agree. I just, it's just a surprise. That's all. It wasn't budgeted. We've had a good year, and we'll talk about that more. So basically, it's you could almost say it's a royalty for CETA.
It's like a finder's fee.
We do also well. I guess the good news is we had a good year. The bad news is that I was unaware of that sharing arrangement. But so I guess to put the positive spin on it, one hopes that we can have even more fee shares in the future.
Yeah, well, instead of a fixed fee, which when times are difficult to come up with the money for the fixed fee, this to me works much better.
Well, we actually have a hybrid model.
Well, if we do well, our partners do well. I think that Vito Corleone had a similar arrangement with his partners. So that I understand.
But also think of it this way, Roger. If we do well, then the staff of CETA has to work harder.
Well, I'm not, I don't want to elongate the meeting, so your explanation has been sufficient, and thank you very much.
Taylor?
yes.
10:30 tomorrow morning's fine.
All right. I will see you then.
Does anybody have any questions on the bills and communications? I have a motion on the floor to accept them.
I'll make a motion.
Roger, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have one opposition. Roger?
Oh, I got my hand up late.
Oh, okay.
My vote is aye.
Okay. Okay, moving on. Report of the treasurer.
Well, it seems like a timely spot in the festivities so far. Right after our bills, you have the profit and loss performance for the year 2020. And as I have, I think, been explaining going on, for 2020, we had, and I'll direct you to the middle column, January through December 20, we had almost 180,000 in revenues, as I've described in previous meetings. We have our expenses, including the brand spanking new fee. So you can see that our contract services are 38,000 compared to a budget of 20. I guess we've discussed that quickly, but I think everybody understands what we're talking about. The 58,000, just as a reminder, is the branding project, not budgeted, but understood to be in action during 2020. So you can see that net income for the year over $73,000. Hats off to Tracy and the staff for essentially assisting acquiring those businesses and those fees. And you can see that is something we don't expect to see next year so far. I'll just point you in the direction on the far right-hand column of the annual budget. So the 30,000, we're budgeting 30,000 in revenues and 31,000 in expenses, which is our, let's say, our normal average year. Anything on the horizon, Tracy, that we can be aware of now?
So one
I think
thing,
we've got.
yeah, one thing that we're gonna bust the budget right off the bat. We just closed on the Nucor deal, and that was $180,000 revenue.
Okay, and that's forthcoming going forward then?
That was just put in the mail to us like yesterday, that check. So that'll be on the January financials.
So therefore, I can say to the board that hopefully my memory remains solid for the next year. Therefore, it's fair to say that we'll be having another fee experience next year. Correct?
Probably, yes.
Yes. No,
Between that and Mac and a couple others.
Yes, I hope so. From a pure, I guess, mechanical point of view or mechanical accounting, we are going to, in the marketing and promotion line, we will be capitalizing a good portion of that number, right? I mean, certainly at least half of that 58,000 is going to end up as intangible assets on the balance sheet in under the description of website. I'm going to guess that the fee override, that's what I wanted. The fee override for CETA is based on gross revenues or net?
It's more or less based on net. Yeah.
Therefore, if, now I'm sort of perhaps auditing for the county, since I'm talking to the county when I'm talking to you anyways, but therefore, and I guess I should say, along with my long-winded presentation, that I've talked to the auditors this week. I was one of the board members selected for their fraud interview, so therefore I understand that the audit's underway. They'll be making an adjustment to capitalize a portion of the branding costs. Well, therefore, everything else being equal, our profit, which is showing at 73,000, is probably going to be closer
None
to
of
100. You're
the
shaking your head, son.
I don't think any of the website development was part of the 2020 expenses, as I recall.
Okay.
I think that's going to be part of the 2021. I'll double check, but
Okay, we can talk about this offline. But let's say just theoretically that if there was an if we were to, let's say, take 30,000 out of that number and put it on the balance sheet, would that put us in a position where we owe another bit of override to the county? I'm just
no. So I based the fee share on the entire amount paid on the marketing expenses thus far, and I'm not going to adjust it.
Okay. I'm in agreement with that. So, I guess I'll summarize this. As I said before, a solid year this year. Great work by the staff. Another looks like it predict for a solid year next year. So we're in a position going forward. I just informed the board of this for your consideration that if investment opportunities come up to us in the future, we seem to be positioned reasonably well to certainly consider any investment opportunities and may have some financial strength to take advantage of those investment opportunities as they arise. Is there any questions?
Tracy, I don't know that I understood what you meant when you said that $180,000 was going to bust the budget.
So we typically back into a fee budget, like our budget for the year, we back into the fees to create a balanced budget at the bottom line. What that typically means is fees, in the area of $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. So for 2021, I don't actually have the 2021 budget in front of me. Hold on, I can pull it up.
I have it. You can just.
Yeah, so for 2021, we're budgeting for project revenues in that area. We're talking $30,000 to $50,000. I'm guessing, Roger, is that right?
It's actually 30. Yes, it's slightly over 30,000 based on, as you would describe. Our starting point was 31,000 of expenses anticipated for the year. Therefore, our anticipated revenues would be in the same range of 30 to 31,000. So we end up with essentially a break-even situation, no profit, no loss. And now, the budget is a document we use for operational control. And what Tracy, I think, is indicating that instead of the 30,000 in the budget, which was typically how we do it, we now, because of new card, can expect that our actual revenues coming in 2021 will be 180,000 compared to the 30,000 that we budgeted. So
I was hoping that's what you meant.
Yeah. No, I don't mean busted in terms of like expenses. I mean revenue.
Language like busting the budget with something not good happening.
No.
For those of us who have turning stone experiences, when we bust our budget there, that's not quite as favorable as Tracy's language, busting your budget here. So.
I'm still on my learning curve. I'm speaking the lingo now.
Yes.
That is not lingo. Don't remember that one.
I guess, one other housekeeping type question might be, I just raise it, do you want to, based on the information we have, should we consider revising the budget for 2021 to what our anticipated revenues are, if only to avoid the discussion every month of saying we're well over budget?
So
I am not opposed to that if that is not adding stress to Tracy's work. But it seems to me that it would be important to reflect what's really going on. Now that I know what busting a budget means.
Yeah. So one thing is that, so all the budgets are due into the state reporting system at the end of October, which is sometimes why these get funky. And so that is already, the budget that exists is already in that system. And I don't know that revising it in that system makes sense. I think we could probably have an internally adjusted budget. But just know that when, Paris reporting comes around, it's going to be based on that original budget.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent option. We'll have it for internal purposes, and we're, we don't have that much of activity where we would lose sight of what we did in terms of our internal reporting versus state reporting. So if the rest of the board doesn't, is I don't even think we would need would we need a motion for something like that to revise the budget?
I can just bring one next month for approval.
Okay.
Review and approval.
That's fair. That's fine. Thank you.
Well, I think you're saying we don't need to have a vote on that on a monthly basis?
No, I think, I'm going to try and answer it to make sure that I understand it. No, I think in terms of, I was talking about revising the budget. I think Tracy offered the fact, let's bring a revised number to the next meeting so we have a visual picture of what it looks like, and then we'll vote on it then. So it's just, I think it's a cleaner way to do it, Jim.
Okay. Hopefully that, say September, we're going to have another pilot where we're bringing in some money, say, well, just take this Mac Studios. There's going to be a certain amount of money coming in on that, which is going to end up with a revised budget. So, on a monthly basis, you have the possibility of having a revised budget.
Well, what I'll do is this right now, since it is so early in the year, it's January and it's already so far off from the budget. What I can do is I can bring forward a revised budget, considering Nucor and Mac Studios, and then look at some other things in the pipeline and think about what might really come through this year. And try to, it's not going to be perfect. Some of it is going to be guesswork, but
it doesn't have
otherwise we wouldn't have that column, right? The third column.
Yep. So I'll do a little bit more projecting and put a number in there that accounts for what we know is happening.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. Good. Anything further, Roger?
Just another housekeeping. I would ask Tracy your projection and when the audit might be completed.
They're doing their field work next week, so we should have a draft financial statement in February, and they'll be reporting to the board at the March meeting.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any questions on the balance sheet? Anything to discuss on the balance sheet? Okay. We have a motion on the board to accept both the P&L and the budget, the balance sheet. So if there's no further discussion, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions carried. Okay, good enough. Thank you. Thank you, Roger. Invoice disbursement report.
So that's your pilot disbursement report. We have all payments besides Prison City.
Which we do have now, right? They sent the
No.
check. Oh, because they sent the check
No,
and it was
so
made out
they
to
made the
wrong.
check out wrong. I had to send it back so they can send in another check. So I'm waiting for that to come in, but all pilots have been paid. You'll see off to the side, those are the last few that have to be dispersed, and then Prison City, and then we will be done.
Is Prison City, did you say Prison City was still outstanding?
Correct. So they sent in a check to us, but they made it out incorrectly. So it was not addressed to AIDA. So I had to return it back to them to have them cut a new check.
Okay, so that's in the pipeline.
Yes.
We'll consider it that everybody was on time.
Yes.
Very good, very good. Good job on that. That's makes me very happy. Anybody have any questions on the pilots, the payments? Okay.
I guess I have a quick. I was going to ask about our friends. I don't know if this is the right time. Ask about our friends at Bluefield.
Yeah, we can talk about that right now.
I think the last we said to the board was that they're seeking nonprofit status. Is that where they're at?
Yeah, so we actually just completed the paperwork to terminate the lease. I don't remember if it was a lease back or lease sale back or whatever it was, whatever mechanism it was that would put them back onto the tax rolls, and now they'll have to do what they need to do to. Because they never followed back up to say, yes, we want to extend our pilot.
Yeah,
I did follow up with Cheryl a couple of times, and she had not requested it, so we just processed all that paperwork. They do
So
still
where
have
did they go
bond.
back on the tax rolls at? Full?
I don't know what they're doing on their end. I don't know if, Rick, you have any additional insights. I don't know if they actually were able to establish that nonprofit status, so they'll either be at full assessment or they will have that nonprofit exemption. I don't know where that landed.
Yeah, and that's in the hands of the assessor. It's, once AIDA deeds the land back out, it's just privately taxed, so that's in the hands of the assessor.
Okay.
They do still have a bond that has some balance on it, so there will still be that relationship with AIDA as a conduit for that bond, as I understand it, Rick, but that will be that has no real financial bearings in terms of AIDA's position.
Right, that's just conduit. Yep.
Okay. That help, Roger?
Rick, oh, go ahead.
Can I ask a couple quick questions? And maybe one of them isn't.
Roger, did that answer your question?
No, it didn't.
Well, let's get that cleared up first.
It's just it's a lack of understanding on my part. So, what I'm hearing from Tracy is that basically we wanted to be we were receptive to some discussion related to carrying forward the pilot or them being fully assessed or whatever, and they've chosen to not go any farther with their discussions and essentially rolling the dice with the assessor or their nonprofit status and see what happens. So if I understand things correctly, then to some extent, we were probably, Tracy was probably a student saying, if they want to, they can proceed in any way they want, and it's really not, it's not something we should it's not something we should get involved with because we have no control over what happens. Either the assessor comes up with a value or they get a nonprofit status, and then whatever happens, we become aware of that and act accordingly. Is that a fair way to describe it?
Well, we don't necessarily even know what happens. We're just out of it. All right, now it's Bluefield's hands. They have to petition the assessor for tax exempt status, and that's a whole separate process that does not involve AIDA in any way. So we no longer have any interest in the real estate, and so we're done.
So the last pass through was that $1.79?
Rick, is that parcel part of the deeding? Because that one is attached to Bluefield. It's
Well, the one we paid $1.79 for.
Yeah, we pay it every year. We've had it every year. It's attached to the Bluefield pilot.
But it's not a pass through?
Well, so when the property's deeded out, so AIDA deeded it back to, is this little strip that they needed to tie? Okay, so,
yeah.
But everything, so the entire property, including the strip, has been deeded back to Bluefield. So on the taxable status date, which is, at least in the city, is February 1, probably this, I think this, either February 1 or March 1 in the towns, that goes into Bluefield. It's out of AIDA, it's in Bluefield as, just on the tax rolls. So it's the same thing. They can petition to have it, for tax exempt status of all their property. That's up to them. If their tax exempt status is denied, they owe tax based on whatever assessment the assessor puts on the rolls.
And that's and that's between Auburn and the city of Auburn and them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
we're totally out of it.
That 179 should be the last bit of association we should have with Bluefield.
Almost. I mean, like Tracy said, they still have a couple of years to go on their bonds, and technically, that's a pass-through. AIDA, it's conduit, but we don't really handle any money. They pay the bondholders.
Yes.
It's sort of technically still on our books as a bond, but there's nothing for us to do.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that should be the last time we're assessed by that fire district.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, Roger?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. That was very helpful.
Actually, based on Rick and Roger's comments, my questions probably aren't suitable for this forum. I was putting my city councilor hat on there for a minute, and I will reserve those questions for a different body.
Okie doke. Now, Taylor and Tracy informed me that there are still at least one board member, I don't know how many, that have not done the board evaluation. I would appreciate it immensely if we could close that up. So, enough said. CETA staff update.
So there are just a few things I want to bring to your attention. Oh, let me add one before I forget it. One is that we have been continuing to work with TGW on the branding. They are starting to get into the website development now. They sent us a kind of initial draft of the homepage just to give us a sense of style. The plan moving forward, this is what I want you to be aware of. The plan moving forward is to have this website also include AIDA's documents and everything. So we are planning to merge the two websites. So there is, AIDA's portion of this site will just be part of this larger place-based branding site. So it'll still have all of the compliance documents we need, the application form, information about benefits, but the current auburnida.org will go away. That is the plan as of right now, and we will kind of see how that develops, but that is the plan as of right now, is to only have one website. We're also working with them to come up with a list of names for individuals to participate in a podcast. They're planning to do 6 to 8 podcast episodes with individuals to talk about what it's like to do business in Cayuga County, live in Cayuga County or in Auburn. And then also another 6 to 8 people to do some really nice headshots and just some quotes. So just some really great visual and interactive content. My thought is to think about those personas that they presented in the last, or in the research, and, you know, think about people who might reflect those personas that might be interesting to talk to for 12 minutes about the city of Auburn and their experience here. So if you have any recommendations of people who might be willing to participate in that and might be a good fit for this type of a campaign, please do let us know, because they're going to start trying to get those started in the next couple of weeks here. So they're looking for names very soon. You know, we have a few names that we've got, but just throwing it out there, looking for ideas. For next month, you're going to notice that you're going to have a new link and dial-in information. We're switching over to Zoom. Our GoToMeeting subscription has ended, and we've decided to switch to Zoom for this year. So the link and dial-in information you use for next month's meetings are going to be different than we've been using. So just keep an eye out for that. Our contract, the AIDA contract, is expired at the end of 2020, I noticed. So next month I will be bringing forward a new contract for review and approval. If there's anything in the contract that you would like to discuss or adjust, just let me know. Maybe I'll have Taylor send out a copy of it so you can take a look at it before then too. But just a heads up that I'll be bringing that next month. And then we have the go-ahead from the City Planning Office to start promoting and taking applications for the Micro Enterprise Program. So we just finished developing that program. It's meant to benefit, I've spoken about it here before, but again, it's meant to benefit low to moderate income entrepreneurs and small business owners. A micro enterprise is under 5 employees, including the owner, and they have to be a city resident to be eligible for the program. We have currently in the funding $15,000 in grants. We can do up to $5,000 per grant. So the plan is to have 3 people getting grants of $5,000 each. We are going to probably look to accept 4 or 5 people into the program because, you know, when you're talking about a program of this nature where there's 8 sessions they have to attend, plus mentoring, plus homework, plus writing a business plan, you know, it's pretty inevitable that someone drops out just because of life being life. You know, this happens with Leadership Cayuga every year. We always lose 1 or 2 people. So we figured we'd, you know, make sure we had enough people to be able to get that $15,000 out the door. And then, you know, should 4 or 5 people come to the end of the program and be eligible for that grant, we've already talked to the city about ways that we might be able to find additional funds to keep those grants at $5,000. If we're not able to do that, we'll look to distribute those funds amongst all the eligible people. But we are, you know, already looking ahead to, okay, how do we find additional money to make sure everybody gets funded if they complete the requirements of the program? Meg is working on the documents for that in terms of promotion. We have the application ready, and I'm guessing we'll start pushing it out in the next couple of days. So we'll make sure that it gets out to all of you. If you know anybody that might be a good fit for the program, please do pass it along to them. DRI applications came in. So we'll be reviewing those with the committee early February to start getting those projects reviewed and awarded. And then I think that's about it. And then I know, Jim, you also wanted to chat about board membership as well.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Number one, we have an opening on this board. Ron Lavarnway has asked to go off the board, and he said he would stay on for a short period of time until we found a replacement. And so I would ask all of you to take a look at people that you know that you think it's an at-large position, so we don't need a specialization. But we would also like you to take a close look at women. We only have one on the board, and I don't think that's enough. We should have more. And so we want to keep that in mind as we move forward. Tracy is going to get a list of people that have worked or gone to Leadership Cayuga that are interested in getting involved in the community, and that you'll pass that out to the board, Tracy?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And I'd like to move on this. The procedure is we come up with hopefully a very, very strong candidate that we would feel very comfortable working with. If we find more than one, then we would make a recommendation to the mayor with 2 or 3 or whatever it is. Hopefully we come up with an agreement on one strong candidate. It goes to the mayor takes it to the council, and we move forward. So if you would give that some serious consideration and get back to either myself or Tracy with names, I'd appreciate it.
Jim, on that, I have a technical question on that. If someone were working with AIDA with a pilot, if they have a pilot with AIDA, would that eliminate that person from consideration being on the board? If they have to run a business?
I think if from the get-go, if somebody's involved with some of the projects that we're involved in, that would not be a good fit. We have to understand that down the road, anybody could get involved in one of our projects, and then they would have to abstain. But to start out that way, I don't think that's a good idea. That hasn't been a practice that we've had. Unfortunately, as I said to the finance committee, there's some really good people like in City Hall that would be a great fit for AIDA. Unfortunately, there's a conflict of interest there. So I don't think we want to open Pandora's box and walk into a conflict right from the get-go. But we do understand that could come up as we move along. Any one of us could be involved. So, and that's where the abstention would come in.
Okay, thank you. And they have to be city residents, obviously, right?
Yeah, city resident. And they should be a registered voter. Jimmy?
I was just going to say those 2 things as well, Jim. Thank you. And I'll second that. I feel it should be a female candidate.
I think it's important that we have the diversity on the board as we continue.
As well as Washington, D.C., and we accomplished that today, thank goodness, huh?
I was talking about that, and you know what? It really hit me. The same thing with my wife when she was when they were at Arlington, and both of them were standing next to that wreath. You know, wow, the Vice President of the United States You know, that's just fantastic. What a big difference.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say, I was going to say, someone might have said, I wonder if she's as qualified as Mike Pence, but I wouldn't say that. So
Be nice.
We'll even forget that you thought about it. Okay. Does anybody have anything further that they'd like to bring up? Any projects or anything that we need to know about?
Jim, I don't have anything to bring up. I just wanted to offer thanks to my colleagues on the AIDA board for hearing the concern I expressed at our last meeting and sending that letter to our colleague Aileen McNabb Coleman at the county. I just can't stress enough. As I said, I'm one of a few women president and CEOs. My company is a private sector corporation. People are always like, is that a nonprofit? I'm like, no, but I do own a nonprofit. I found it when I don't run it anymore. But I just can't stress enough the importance of us paying attention to all the factors that could contribute to someone deciding or not deciding doing business here. And I also would say that I was telling my sister leader, Kathleen Cuddy, is in a very difficult position right now. And for her to have to deal with the stress of keeping us all alive on top of abusive language from a colleague who has a say in her salary, it's just not in the best interest of our community and ultimately not in the best interest of our economy. So I want to thank you for hearing that concern from my place of intention and for us to muster the collective courage and will to say something about it. So thank you very much.
Well, I think I speak for the entire board when I say you're welcome. And I am only saddened by the fact that the letter had to be written in the first place. That in today's day and age, that somebody who in that position doesn't have enough common sense to understand that that's just not acceptable. It drives me nuts. Okay, moving on. Our next meeting is February 17th, 5 p.m. One other thing, the Finance Committee met, and Jeff, you want to bring that up? About
Yes, I had to unmute.
vote?
So yeah, we did meet. There were 3 policies that we went over, kind of go over on a yearly basis. No recommended changes. We did talk about the procurement policy and kind of refreshed ourselves with that, just as far as the procedural basis around that, or policies around that. We also talked a little bit about how they're pretty much fall in line with the New York State guidelines. We as a group several years ago kind of added in consideration for local corporations into that mix. It wasn't part of something New York State, but we felt it was something that was strong, we needed as an organization. So we discussed that today as far as having that as a change and a good change to our policy that we want to go forward with. So that was about it.
And we're going to vote acceptance of all of the policies next month, Tracy?
No, that resolution comes around later in the year. This is
Well,
just
whenever.
committee review, and
It's
then
coming.
we'll do the resolution later in the year.
I think we're pretty well caught up on the reviews too, aren't we?
Oh, we have to do them every year. So we were good for 2020, and now we're starting all over for 2021.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a motion on the floor? Terry, second please.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.